Everybody knows that I love Surfy Bear reverbs. They're the best. I legitimately think that they are the best surfy, drippy, springy reverb pedals on the market. And there's a lot to choose from, but Surfy Industries with their Surfy Bear reverbs are the only ones doing it all the way right. They're the only ones honoring the original Fender outboard 6G15 reverb unit sound. There's not a lot of other options out there, and all the other pedal makers that are putting springs and pedals are going for a different sound. But which Surfy Bear is the best? And clearly this is just going to be my own opinion, right? This is all subjective. But which Surfy Bear do I think is the best? Is it the Classic? This is the 3.0 version of the Classic. I demoed this a couple months ago. This is the closest representation that you're going to be able to find on the market of a Fender 6G15. Or is it the Metal? The pedal that I keep on my surfboard, on the board that I use with my band Dinosaur Ghost. I mean, it's a strong contender, right? What about the Compact? It's smaller. It's not pedal board riser sized like these two. It's small enough to fit on a fairly average pedal board, but it's still the size of 3.5 metal zones. Is it the Compact? No, it's not any of these. I have a new favorite Surfy Bear reverb, and it's this, the Surfy Bear Reverb Compact Deluxe. Let's plug it in so I can show you why I love it. I'm going to be starting off with my Fender Amp Pro 2 Jazzmaster, running into the 2 Princetons rig. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get into it. So what makes the Surfy Bear Reverb Compact Deluxe so special? What makes it better than everything else, in my personal opinion? Well, if you're familiar at all with the previous Compact, you might have noticed there's more knobs and switches. The previous Compact had a bypass, a mixer switch, and 6 knobs. Look at that! We've got 9 knobs, 3-foot switches, 4 extra little switches up here. What does it all do? Well, there's 3 big additions here that we can talk about. First of all, and the most obvious addition, is the inclusion of a tremolo circuit, which is brilliant for a pedal this big. If you're going to commit this much space on your pedal board to a reverb, might as well throw a tremolo in there too, right? Make it make sense. Now you don't have to have an extra trem pedal on your board. It's already there. The next big thing that I want to show you is on the back side. Do you see that? Do you see those little guys right there? Do you know what that means? Do you know what those are for? All the spring reverb lovers out there know what that's for. That's so you can connect an external spring pan. Spring pans use RCA jacks. And that's what those are there for. And once you connect it, you can switch in between the internal and the external pan with the mixer control, and you can decide which mix gets what with these little switches up here. It's brilliant. It allows you to use this as is or experiment on the fly. If you want to try out a ton of different pans and find the one that's right for you, this is a brilliant thing to have. If you want to switch sounds in the middle of your set, or if you want to get really experimental and do weird things mangling pans to see what kind of like circuit bent sounds you can get out of the things, this is an amazing brain, a central controller to experiment with reverb pans. The next thing is going to sound a little bit boring in comparison to those first two, but it's very important and it's very smart. Surfy Bear did this with their most recent model before this, the Classic 3.0. They updated the power situation. Surfy Bear reverbs have always been a bit tricky to power. They've required 12 volt with a full amp of power with reverse polarity from what you would normally get out of a conventional modern power supply. They've changed all that. This now takes 9 to 12 volt. You can still do 12 volt if you want, but it will run off of 9 volt. 500 milliamps, which is much more accessible. You can find 500 milliamp outputs on all sorts of cheap power bricks. And it works either polarity. You can't accidentally fry this or risk frying your other pedals when you're swapping power around anymore. It takes both polarities. Amazing, Surfing Industries. Amazing. You've done it. So anyways, let's get into it. Here is my dry sound. And here is the sound of the Surfy Bear Reverb Compact Deluxe Mix 1. All the settings as you see them. We're ready to drip. Try that from the bridge pickup. It does it! It does the thing! Let's start exploring that tremolo, and then I'll show off the basic controls here. Gotta get that intensity up. The speed and the intensity all the way up, because why not? Pull that back a little bit. Go all the way slow just to show off what happens. Now let's try out the brown setting. Harmonic trem can go a bit slower than bias trem, in my opinion. It's more of a tonal modulation. It's more sweepy feeling. So I like to have it go a little bit slower than my volume biasing trem. Let's try it with the speed up a bit, just to say we did it. And because it sounds nice too. Now let's go back to black and we'll try it pre-reverb. That's with the tremolo after the spring reverb, so it is affecting the reverb trail. We put it before, and now the reverb will be built on top of this pulsing, chopping trim. No chop on the trail. It's just on your guitar going into the reverb. Go all the way intense here. It really is just like an all-in-one surf machine. Like, excellent sounding spring reverb and an excellent sounding trim with all the smart options. Let's try the brown setting pre-reverb. Now one more trick before we move on to the rest. If you take that intensity and you pull it all the way out and you crank that volume, now you've got a boost, either pre or post. Let's put it in the post position so you can hear the volume difference. Here it is without. Here it is with. It's a little extra spicy, isn't it? I think there's a bit of a preamp thing going on there where the EQ is just cooked a little bit. There's some presence going on with that boost. It's basically a boost with the intensity off, turned up. Now we'll put it in the pre position. Here it is without. And here it is with. This is gonna make that reverb sizzle a little bit more. that trem really just, it adds so much to the compact concept here. Like, so brilliant, so smart. And just the little extra switches and the fact that it has a volume control so you can use it as a tone, a reverb shaping boost. If that was the only addition, I would still be singing the praises of this thing. But let's explore the reverb side really quick, and then I'm going to start plugging in an external pan to show that off. I can't really demonstrate the power, except for throughout the entire video, because it is currently powered by a very cheap Azure brick off camera right here. So it works. It works off of the cheapest power brick you could get off the internet. Okay, so the reverb side, pretty much the same stuff as the classic compact. Can we call it the classic compact now? Volume control, mix 1, mix 2, go in between with that guy right there. I'll put them both to internal for the time being. Then you've got a tone control, which you'd find on any classic 6G15 style reverb. A decay control, which is a more modern sort of thing to add. That is a twist direct from the sick minds over there at Surfy Industries. And then a dwell control, also another thing you'd find on a 6G15. So let's go in between mixes so you can hear what happens. That's with it up at 50%, obviously. Here it is, full mix. Not for the faint of heart. Still plenty of drip and splash and piercing, ice picky, ringing high notes. Let's try dialing it down to be more of an everyday, like, internal amp sort of reverb. Of course, if you want it to be a little bit duller, you don't want those bright ice picky highs, you can roll back the tone. And select the neck pickup. So yeah, it's completely capable of making some more subtle, classic, kind of everyday bluesy sorts of reverb sounds. It doesn't have to be all drip all the time. But you can switch back and forth with the touch of a button. Put that back up there. Now the tone control. It's self-explanatory. Bright on the right. Dark on the left. It controls the tone of your reverb trail. Decay. Decay is something different. It's kind of like a noise gate for your reverb trail. You can open it all the way up and get that full trail. But then if you pull it back, it gates off that reverb trail. Makes it nice and short. As long as you're playing, it's not going to be able to engage the gate, but if you need your reverb trail to cut off when you're not playing, it's a useful thing to dial in. There you go. An extra thing to dial in your sound. And then dwell. Dwell is like, it's a different kind of mix control. I'm not totally sure how to describe it. It's one of those things where if you've spent a bunch of time with reverb units, you know what it does, but I don't think I've ever tried to explain it before, so I'm not going to try now. Basically, if your reverb's getting out of control, the dwell is a good thing to dial down. There's nothing there. There's a little bit there. There's a lot more there. There's plenty there. It's getting to be too much. Let's go full mix. That's a bit much, isn't it? Name that riff. Do you know that tune? Tell me in the comment section. I've been playing it a lot lately, haven't I? So what next? This is what's next. It's going to be a challenge to get it all to fit in screen here, isn't it? Compromises are going to have to be made. So what we have here is a pretty standard Accutronics tank. It is a 4A-B3C1C. These things are not expensive. I think the last time I price checked reverb pans, they were like 30, 40 bucks, something like that. Totally an affordable thing to get just to mess around with, just to experiment with, especially if you have something like this that is a brain that can allow you to have fun swapping pans in and out and doing some experimenting. So what does it sound like? Let's put everything to noon here, set that to extension or external. Is it an extension reverb pan or is it an external? So that is the internal, here is the external. Back to the internal. Now, something to know is that yes, this has a shorter pan, but it also has a 3-spring pan. The more springs you have, the more lush and dense you could consider your reverb trail. It's going to sound more blurred. Where the fewer springs you have, the more you're going to get those little drippy, almost echoey artifacts. So something that I like to do, getting right into this here, is I like to mute one of the springs just to experiment, just to have some fun. Let's turn up that mix before we do this. Plenty of drip there. Plenty of spring goodness. I've got this little bit of foam here that I've crafted. By crafted, I mean I spent about 20 seconds cutting it out and cutting a little channel in there to hold one of the springs. Now that's going to mute one whole spring, making this a one spring reverb pan. This thing takes up a lot of space to only have one spring going on. But listen to this. Oh, that's fun. You really get to hear those bouncy little artifacts, those drips bouncing back and forth across the physical spring. Oh, I like that. So I've been using the full-sized metal Surfy Bear for my band when we play. It's been a long time since we played. Maybe we'll play again someday. But with this sort of thing going on now, like, I'm wondering if I should completely redo that board to have this be my main reverb, but then have something like this hiding underneath the board to give me like this really unique, extra drippy, extra like weird and thin spaghetti western sort of sound. Too cool! I love that sound! Oh man, and you can switch in between, whatever you want to do. I'm sure there's a bunch of other creative ways that I could modify and mutate and mangle a reverb pan. And like I said, they're not expensive, 30, 40 bucks or something like that. Last time I checked, it's been a couple of years. Don't quote me if I'm totally wrong. But yeah, what if you replace the springs? They're soldered on, or like glued on there or something, but what if you replace them? What if you put like a guitar string in there? I'm assuming it has to be conductive. So some other form of metal, maybe some other spring, maybe like, because these are two springs, each spring here is two springs connected in the middle. What if you removed one and stretched the other one out? How would that change the sound? There's all sorts of destructive possibilities to be explored with something like that. Or like legitimately just, you could buy a bunch of different pans. Surfy Industries sells their own reverb pans that are dialed in just the way they like them to replicate the sound of vintage units. Buy a bunch of pans from all sorts of different manufacturers and test them out. Figure out what you like, figure out what you don't like. Figure out what's fun to experiment with. Like, I think that's really a huge attraction for me to the Compact Deluxe, is the potential and possibility for experimentation that was otherwise pretty dang difficult. You had to bust out screwdrivers and tools to swap out tanks before. And in something like that, a Fender unit, oh man, it's tricky to test different pans in there. You got to open up the whole dang thing, and there's all these springs you have to pull off with pliers and stuff like that. This is so smart. It's just so smart. I want to jam with it with my Deep 6 now. So let's get that. One take and I did it. That's not normal for a loop. And I hit a point where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna get better than that. That felt great. That sounded amazing. Maybe I'll find another loop, but I'm gonna let that one rest as it was. The pre-trim, the trim in the pre-position, hitting that reverb, that's where like that moody, dark magic lives. But, I mean, post-trim is such a classic sound as well. I started to lose it there a little bit. Oh, it just sounds good with everything. That muted spring situation might be my signature sound. That might be my go-to thing. I feel like I might have my own pan exploration journey coming up in the near future. Figuring out which pans I love, which pans I don't love, which pans I'm gonna keep and which ones I'm gonna mangle and do weird things with. I've got a drawer down there with about 5 or 6 pans in it. I have a problem. I have a spring reverb problem. I'm not afraid to admit it. But man, excellent job, Surfy Bear. It's all subjective. Everything is subjective, right? You might prefer the sound of one of the classic long pan Surfy Bears. That might be your jam. But what I'm saying is that you can still have that with the Compact Deluxe and the trim and the power situation and the pedal board friendliness of the whole thing just because it's smaller. Look how big this is in comparison. And this is the same size. This one is neat because there's actually a lot of space right here where you could put other pedals. You could treat this as a pedal board. I actually did a video testing it and it was no problem. You could totally fit a bunch of pedals on here. Clicking on the pedals didn't affect the spring pan dripping or anything like that. Or, oh, I've got it all muted. It does it. You can crash the pans. Oh man, what was I talking about? Crashing a pan erases your brain. That's part of the fun of it, right? So you get to erase the audience's brain by crashing a reverb pan. Hey, like, if you wanted to have a dedicated pan just for crashing sounds, something that you could kick around and abuse, this would be an excellent solution for that because you've got your internal mix and then you can switch to your crashing mix. I have it muted to save us all here. But it's just such a smart pedal. It's just a smart evolution of the whole Surfy Bear concept. I wouldn't mind seeing them take this concept and expanding it into the full-size metal line. Like, there's so much room on this for knobs and other effects and foot switches and stuff like that. They could just throw everything at it. They could throw a fuzz and an overdrive and a boost in there and have a tremolo and reverb. Surfy Industries, don't stop. Keep innovating. Keep coming out with new products. Don't rest on your laurels because everything new thing that you guys do excites me. I can't speak for everyone else, but I'm just a huge fan over here, and I've been a fan forever. This is my first Surfy Bear right here. Back when the only way to get a Surfy Bear was to order this circuit board as a kit. You had to solder up all the pots and the connectors and everything and find your own case or make a case and find your own pan and power supply, all of it. It literally was just this circuit board that got mailed to me in an envelope. And that was my first Surfy Bear. And I've been a fan ever since. So anyways, I'm done gushing now. Hopefully, at least in this video. I'll save some for the rest of the videos. Thanks for watching. Thanks for making it to the end. Huge thanks to Surfy Bear, to Surfy Industries for sending this out to me and everything else that they've sent out to me over the years. I actually have one other new thing from them to cover, so stay tuned and subscribe for that. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, dislike, leave me rude, nasty comments. Support us on Patreon. Buy a shirt if you're naked, and stay grounded. Bye, everybody.